Welcome back. So today is blueberry jam day and I'm only making a single batch, which I'm not exactly sure how many jars it's going to give me. It only takes 2 cups of blueberries, and the reason I'm doing that is I had bought a quart of blueberries at the at a farmer's stand, and I didn't need that many, but it was a cheaper deal to buy the bigger one than the small one. So I used what I wanted in my oatmeal. I have some extra left over to make blueberry muffins, but then I'm going to take this 2 cups and make jam because my husband really likes different types of fruit jam. So to do that, it's only 3 ingredients. It's blueberries, lemon juice, and sugar. That's it. No pectin, nothing like that. But before I get started with that, I wanted to show you that there are different jars that you can use for jelly or jam. So this is typically the jar that I use. It's a smaller one. My mother-in-law used this one for peach. There's also this one. It's a wide mouth. Oh, I think it's a wide mouth. Let me double check. This is another size jar. Yeah, that's a wide mouth, where this is a regular mouth. That's the only difference. And those 2 jars. And then of course you can do it in pint jars, wide mouth or regular mouth. So when you're looking at the jars, you want to pay attention to what size mouth they have, so you buy the right lids. You can see there's a difference there, and just by looking at them you can see the difference. These ones don't get skinny at the neck and are more open. The wide mouth are more beneficial for things like salsa, where you're putting chunkier items in it. Sauerkraut's another one I typically use my wide mouth for. So for today, I'm going to, both of these have been washed. I have some hot water going in a stock pot to sanitize them because they're not, I washed them last night, but I want to make sure they're sanitized before I put them in, because I'm not sure which jar I'm going to use. Only because I don't know how much it's gonna make. So let's get down to making blueberry jam. We're gonna start this jam off by starting a pot of hot water for our lid, because we want to sterilize these lids and we want to wet that ring. So I'm actually going to put one of each in, since I don't know which jar I'm going to be using. Just put that in the water, get the flame going, and we're going to boil it just for like a minute or 2 to sterilize it and soften that rubber gasket. In another saucepan, we're going to put our 2 cups of washed blueberries, 3/4 cup of sugar, and then we're going to do 1 tablespoon of lemon juice. I did already shake this. You can see there's still some sediment at the bottom. I probably should have reshaken it. You can also use a real lemon. You can buy a lemon and use that instead of the lemon juice. So I'm just going to stir this up, and what's going to happen is as these blueberries heat up, their natural juices will start seeping out. It's called macerating the berries. So we're going to let that go, because what we're going to do is we're going to bring this to a boil. Once it boils, we're going to boil it for 10 minutes, constantly stirring. And then after that's done, I'm going to turn the heat off. I'm going to drop my jars into this stock pot with boiling water to sterilize them, and then we'll go on to fill the jars. So I'm going to get this boiling. Once it reaches that boiling temperature, I'll show you what it's supposed to look like. Then I'll let it boil for the 10 minutes, and then we'll fill our jar. Okay, so our blueberry jam is at a rolling boil. Now the directions state to use the back of a spoon to smash the blueberries, and I tried that with this spoon and it just wasn't working the way I was hoping it would. So what I ended up doing was I took this, and I'm gonna turn it around here and show you. This is what the rolling boil looks like, and I just smashed these down a little bit with this potato masher, and that worked perfectly. So I've got my timer on. We've got 9 minutes to go. This is going to do this rolling boil for 10 minutes, and we're going to keep stirring it so it doesn't burn. Our lids have boiled. I turned the heat off on those. Those are ready to go, and our jars are sanitizing right now. So those will be ready to go. And then the next part of this is going to be filling that jar, which is gonna be 8 minutes. 8 minutes and 45 seconds. So this is a very, very fast process. This doesn't take very long at all for this. And this isn't just blueberry jam. I've done this with cherries, strawberries, apricots, peaches. The jam that I do doesn't use pectin. Now, if I was doing a jelly where I was straining the fruit out and just using the liquid part, that's a different story, and I don't do jelly very often. So we'll be back in a minute to fill the jars. Okay, so our jam is ready, and one of the ways to tell is to take a spoon, and if it sticks like that to the back of your spoon, it's ready to go. So I turned the heat off, set that aside. This is our jar lifter. I bought a beginner canning kit. It came with a magnet to get your lids out of the pan when they're hot, and it came with this jar funnel and this lifter, and it came with a couple other pieces, but this is mostly what I use. So I'm going to use this to get my jar out of the hot water without hurting myself. I lift it upside down so that I can dump the water out. I have a tea towel here I'm going to use to just flip this over, and I'm going to go ahead and just use the pint. We're going to use the funnel. Now, this is the part you have to be very careful. Jam gets very hot from the sugar, and it can burn you very easily. So we have to be very careful pouring this in. But we're just going to pour that down in, and also blueberries stain. So watch your clothes. For some reason, I'm good at wearing white when I'm doing this stuff that I shouldn't be wearing white doing, but I'm not wearing too much white today, so it's okay. So that's all out of our pan. I'm gonna set that over there. So this jar is now very hot. It's hot from being in this boiling water. It's hot from the jam going in there. So very, 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 very hot. So I'm gonna lift this out. And when I do canning, I take a paper towel and I run it around the edge of my jar to make sure I didn't blurp. And for the first time ever, usually the first jar is a freebie, I didn't blurp. I almost always make a mess. Well, not almost always, I do. So now I'm gonna take this lid, I'm gonna put it on, then there's gonna be a ring that goes on it, and I'm gonna hold it since it's hot. Now, when that jam is cooking, be careful, it will splash up, so you gotta be careful of that too when you're stirring it. So we got 1 pint out of that 2 cups, and you wanna leave, if you're doing more than one batch, you wanna leave at least a ½ inch of head space, which would be a little bit higher than this, so that it has room to, if you're canning it. Because this is jam, what I normally do, if the jar is hot, the jam is hot, and the lid is hot, I will let it rest here. Once it cools to room temperature, it will auto seal. I'll hear that pop. Sometimes the lid has a defect or the jar has a defect. Normally, like, I will run my finger over the rim before I use to make sure there's no cracks, no missing pieces. They won't seal if they have that. So it's very important to check to see if they seal. Now you might be asking, how do you know if they seal? A normal lid before it's sealed, can you hear that? It'll make a popping sound. That's because there's a little indent in the top. Oh, that one's louder. You'll hear that pop. When it seals, you'll hear it go down. You know it's sealed. When they're done, after they've all cooled, I go and I run my finger over the middle. And as long as it doesn't push down and it doesn't make that popping sound, I know they sealed and they're good. If it makes that popping sound, there's 2 choices. I can remove the lid, put a new lid on, or I can put it in the fridge and use it immediately. That's all there is to it. So thank you for joining me for blueberry jam. Just a quick after jam note. If for whatever reason your jar did not seal and you have to replace that lid because that jar is no longer hot, you're going to need to water bath it in order for it to seal. And that's where that headspace is very important. So I didn't need to can it or water bath it when I initially did it because it was already very, very hot and to temperature. That blueberry jam was over 220 degrees when I put it in the jar. And whenever you pressure can, it pressure cans at anywhere between 220 and 250 degrees. So what ends up happening is when you have to replace that lid, you need to water bath it to heat it back up for it to seal. And we don't have to can it because we've used the lemon as an acid, and high acid items can be water bathed. So to do that, replace your lid with, you want to sanitize a new lid and get that gasket wet. Put it on your jar with the ring. Fill a stock pot or a larger pot the goal is you need an inch of water above the top of your jar. So whichever pot you have, if you're doing a single, like if I was just doing that single jar, I could probably use my Dutch oven. But you want it an inch above. So you put your jar in your pan, your water in an inch above, and you bring it to a boil. And then you let it boil for 15 minutes and you turn off your heat, and you can pull your jar out and let it rest on the counter to cool down, and then it should seal. So that was one thing I forgot to mention, is if you do have to replace the lid, what is next? So if you don't use it immediately and you do want to go that route, that's how you do it. You just do that water bath. And that is with that blueberry jam, or if you've done strawberry where you have the lemon juice in it, or cherry, things of that nature. So thank you.